waiting for part 2. I've been ready for part 2 all day.
You been ready?
I've been ready.
Oh, okay. I've been ready too. So
you ready to get it? We just gonna go on and get back into it. All right. So the greatest lie ever sold.
Yes.
Candace Owens is breaking this thing down. So
let's make it do what it do.
Let's get into it.
Praying the verdict is the right verdict, which is, I think it's overwhelming in my view.
We've got to get more confrontational, make sure that they know that we mean business.
I want to see the charge of the arresting officer take place. We are not talking about a split-second decision that was made incorrectly. I can't see coming to a different answer there. Thank you.
Real quickly, have you seen the body camera footage yourself?
No, I have not yet.
The verdict is in the case that has riveted the nation, the trial of Derek Chauvin. The former Minneapolis police officer was found guilty today of killing George Floyd last May.
I just want to thank the prosecutors, I just want to thank God, the DNA, everybody. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And I hope every killer cop is watching and paying attention, because today the Black Lives Matter movement served notice on you.
There's a viciousness, there's almost a bloodthirst when one of these cases comes around. And nobody looks back, nobody asks any questions, nobody says sorry. It's just, you are being sacrificed so we can build this temple of Black Lives Matter. And there are so many individuals who deserve to have their story told. So Liz, I want to start with you. So being an anchor and having that position, how did you juggle being married as well to a police officer in terms of covering stories?
Well, I went to our management right away, before I even went on a date with Bob, as a matter of fact, to tell them that I was thinking about going on a date with this person at the time. And I said, ethically, I don't feel comfortable covering police union issues. And that was something that management was totally fine with.
So you mentioned that you were getting threats on Twitter, and I'm assuming that's where it began. Can you talk a little about what those threats were?
I think they started immediately, within, I think, hours of the actual incident. They said that Bob Kroll and Liz Collin will be dead by the time the year ends. They came to the station where I worked and held a protest during the 6 o'clock news, demanding that I be fired for being married to a police officer. Yeah. I'm seeing this story from so many different lenses, as a wife, as a journalist, but as a mom, I think it's where it hit me the hardest.
I can imagine.
The early days, I'm calling friends, hey, can you take Anthony? We have another death threat, or my parents are watching him for a few days. He doesn't know what's going on. I mean, you can't even explain this stuff to adults, nonetheless a 7-year-old child, and he happened to see a little clip of the news in the early days and said, wait a minute, so the police made a mistake and they're stealing stuff from Target? In his little mind, he knew that this did not make sense. This isn't okay. So this was a Black Lives Matter organized protest. 100 people were there, and we were out of town. After that happened, I sent an email to our newsroom, and I said, this seems newsworthy. There was a state rep candidate there that was beating me in effigy. They made piñatas of Bob and I dressed as Klansmen.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Slow down here. You're telling me that they made piñatas of you in effigy, and they beat them?
With bats.
John Thompson did with a stick.
In our driveway. This is the man running to be a state representative in Minnesota.
In your driveway?
Overwhelmingly elected.
Bob Pro and anybody who support his racist ass. Bob Pro, I said it.
I mean, it was horrendous, absolutely awful. And I got in trouble for pitching that as a story. We had reporters tweeting their alliance with Black Lives Matter using that hashtag after this movement, talking about it's okay to align yourself with this group and supporting Black Lives Matter. And that was fine. But I was no longer wanted there, and that was pretty clear.
What was the process of making these?
I mean, if you've ever been so angry you wanted to make a piñata, that's where I'm at. Just absolutely them. That's where I'm at.
So when did you make the decision to leave?
My contract was up in January of this last year, and I had been blackballed in the market.
If I can interject, they were successful in destroying her career because she had a wonderful career trajectory going. She's a small town, Worthington, Minnesota local. She was a local favorite. She was the primary fill-in for the two main anchors. She had a weekend anchor. The ratings that they had were huge. Everybody loved her. And then all of a sudden, this twist. So I watched it destroy her and destroy her career, something that she's very good at and a lot better, quite frankly, than some of her competitors or her replacements.
My name's Fraser Ross, and I own retail stores in Los Angeles, California.
During the George Floyd protests that swept the nation, what happened?
We were looted for over $400,000 worth of merchandise.
Wow.
It was a disaster.
You then went online, and what did you observe that you thought was out of the ordinary?
Chrissy Teigen had posted on her Instagram, I'll help the protesters get out of jail. Then she said, well, let me up it to another 100,000. Now, when you have approximately 30 million followers at the time, you can start a movement, and people say, oh, well, she's going to bail me out and everything. And then, you've got celebrities like Jennifer Garner giving 4 hearts to that post. Well, they all live in gated communities, and it's not their stuff being destroyed.
And you had just been looted.
Yeah, I went online and posted an Instagram of the store being looted, and I tagged, thanks, Chrissy. She wrote under this post, well, like anyone's really shopped there for 10 years.
So her instinct after seeing that your store had been actually looted, her response is, well, no one shops at your store anyway. So she was not sympathetic to the victim in this circumstance.
Not one bit. But Jen Atkins was actually worse.
Jen Atkins, she's a friend of Chrissy Teigen. You've tagged her in this post because you sell her products. She comments on this post as well, basically saying, use the shampoo to clean up the graffiti.
And my looting cream comes out in October.
So they're having fun.
They're mocking the looting. Right. You should be in federal prison if you're inciting violence with that many people following you.
So Dana decides to jump in and call you and Kitson a racist store because you were upset that your store was looted. This made you a racist somehow.
Right.
So this was quite literally blaming the victim. Then what happened?
She sends a DM saying, well, before we get on the phone, you're going to have to apologize to Chrissy Teigen, and then I'll take down the post.
Dana Omari, from her Instagram account, wrote exactly this. You need to make a formal public apology for blaming a woman of color, she was referring to Chrissy Teigen, for your store being looted. And Chrissy needs to be named. In this apology, you should mention it was insensitive to place the blame on a single person and that the true cause of the riots is the mishandling of police brutality toward George Floyd and the Black community as a whole. You should also say that while you are devastated by the looting of your store, you recognize it comes from a place of privilege to be concerned about replaceable items when others are protesting for their rights to live. If you apologize, I will happily remove all posts concerning your store. How does that sound? So this blogger, just to recap, has essentially jumped in on behalf of Chrissy Teigen.
Right. So we got on the phone for 53 minutes, and most of the conversation was, you need to apologize to Chrissy Teigen. I said, I'm not apologizing to her. There's no reason to apologize to Chrissy Teigen. But what are you looking for? Are you looking for money? I was worried that how aggressive they were, and the looting was still approaching. And my main store, the value in that store is much greater than the store that got looted.
Right. So because she's publicly posted your store as being owned by a racist concern that they're going to come loot you some more. Who was the check written out to?
Act Blue.
To Act Blue.
Right.
Okay.
Which is BLM.
Black Lives Matter. So she was basically saying, if you make a donation to Black Lives Matter,
I'll take down the post.
Okay.
And then after she got out of the conversation with me, she texts me from a phone number, and if you don't make the donation, I'm going to repost this. I'm going to make another post on unfortunate posts that won't be good.
So let me ask you a question. Chrissy Teigen, Jen Atkin, a blogger in which they both follow. Why do you think they felt the need to get involved on such a level and to be so supportive of the looting?
Well, I think there was a side that they felt that it would help them become relevant and heroes and everything.
Did Dana mention anything to you about Chrissy Teigen and her having a relationship?
Yes, she said Chrissy Teigen thanked me for what she did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she thanked the blogger
Yes.
for calling you a racist.
Yes.
And I guess having an outrage
Yes.
mob
Yeah.
descend on you online.
Yes.
My name is Charles and I grew up in Kenya.
How long have you lived in Minneapolis?
I came to Minneapolis in May of 1997, so it's been 27 years.
27 years.
Yes.
What was this city before the George Floyd riots?
Well, it was just a typical Midwestern city with low crime and hardworking people, and we just lived here and enjoyed life together.
Yeah. And then things took a bit of a turn, and this is something different, would you say?
Well, what we saw was like a venting of anger. It was complete opposite of Minnesota nice. And we saw anger, mayhem, looting, destruction of property, burning of police precincts, and it was completely foreign to me. I'm used to something like this in third world countries, but not in America, and quite honestly, not in Minnesota.
Not in Minnesota. This is something that I think I've never seen before in any city that I've lived in, at least. It says, "You are now entering the free state of George Floyd." What does that mean?
It means this is an autonomous zone, and it operates outside the laws of United States. And anything that happens here is run by a community, and they do whatever they want.
They do whatever they want. How is that allowed in the United States?
The city of Minneapolis has been negotiating
Negotiating with whom?
With the community.
Wow. So the city is being held hostage by the community that is running the autonomous zone. Do I have it understood?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are now entering a state where really anything goes, right? Really sort of anything goes, right?
Well, I think anything goes here. We've seen death. We've seen a man shot right in front of us. We've seen a woman who was pregnant shot right in front of us. And right here, we had a huge bus, like a school bus, and it was a clinic. It was a medical clinic. And the number one thing they were treating during the time of the riots was gunshot wounds right here.
As I'm looking around, there's so many empty shops on the block, things that are boarded up. How does that make you feel to see that? Is there ever going to be life again on this street?
Well, I feel like there has been a tremendous loss of the way of life here has changed, the economy, the destruction of businesses. Most of the businesses here that were destroyed, the insurance would not be able to cover that.
Right.
And so it's a hard thing for people to rebuild themselves, especially after what they went through.
It almost seems like a vigil is being kept here.
Well, this is pretty much the body of George Floyd. This is where he lay dead and breathed his last right here.
Right. And so the idea is that no one should enter. This is sort of a sacred place. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can see this. It's pretty much a holy ground.
Now, you're a pastor, so I just wanted to ask you, how does it make you feel, right, knowing obviously who George Floyd was and how he lived his life? to see that this has been transformed into a holy ground, you know, as if this is where Jesus Christ took his last breath.
Well, we have better people to follow. Of course, Jesus Christ, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who have lived their lives and epitomized what we would like to emulate.
Right, right. And how does it make you feel when you hear leaders, you know, saying that the death of George Floyd is more significant than Martin Luther King?
It's outrageous.
I guess I would have assumed when Black Lives Matter announced that they raised over $90 million, who knows how much over, on the back of the George Floyd riots and the sprees. Where is that money?
I don't know. It's not here.
Sure don't look like it.
Everything looks worse than it was.
Is it possible that Black America was sort of used as a front, and the emotions that Black America was feeling was used as a front, and this money went probably maybe not to Black people at all, anywhere in the world?
So many elements of people who took advantage of the death of George Floyd to stir up the emotions for political gain, for financial gain, and to propagate division, because some of these organizations that raise money, they can only get money if they propagate hatred and division. They are not helping the community. They are helping themselves.
Where have you seen that money impacted throughout the city?
Democratic politics. I mean, that's...
We shared this place, right? And we went half on everything, you know, the rent, light, gas. So when it happened to Floyd, everything fell back on me and Alvin. So
we got a car out there, it's just sitting there. And we couldn't do nothing with it because he didn't, we don't have the title. They won't take it or move it.
It is just shocking to me because of how much money was raised to think that where he lived, the bills weren't being covered. So Black Lives Matter released their 990 IRS filings, and of course, I wanted to jump right into it and find out exactly what happened to the approximate $80 million that was raised by them between July 1st of 2020 and June 30th, 2021. Okay, Vivek, so during the George Floyd death and the aftermath, you were in Silicon Valley, is that correct?
Yeah, I was running a biotech company, actually, and I was CEO at the time, that's right.
What was the corporate reaction in Silicon Valley?
There was a pledge of allegiance to one cause, to turn this man, who had died in a tragic death, no doubt, into some type of new modern messiah figure. And I thought that the religious quality of every company bending the knee was a bit odd, and I was actually pretty keen on making sure that I didn't lie to my employees, that I didn't tell them something that I didn't believe about this. I sent an employee all email, and I said, look, I understand there's racial riots across the country, or there's unrest across the country. I hope everybody's safe. Let us know if you need us to support you. That was about it. And I remembered the reaction that I got, that somehow that failed to meet the moment because I didn't recite the same ritual incantation that every other CEO was pledging allegiance to across the country, a corporate statement made by the same PR firm that effectively ended in Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been sort of investigating throughout this documentary, where did the money go that was given to Black Lives Matter? We never even really got a full answer of how much money was given.
I often say that BLM now stands for Buy Lavish Mansions, because that's what the BLM movement does. You actually saw in recent weeks there was a person who was effectively working for BLM that personally purchased a mansion, and she pays $3 million for it. Within days, like I think it's 48 hours later, flips that to the BLM organization, who pays nearly $6 million for that same house, booking a personal profit to the person who actually bought it. So that's a self-dealing transaction that enriches personally somebody who's working for Black Lives Matter. Why is BLM buying big lavish mansions in the first place?
When their donors were understandably outraged by the luxurious purchase, Patrisse Cullors came forth and also admitted that she hired both her mother and her brother to work at the property. What sort of work, you ask? Well, Patrisse Cullors' brother, Paul Cullors, is a graffiti artist by trade. That's what he's done his entire life. He's done graffiti. Patrisse instead hired her brother to do security for her. She paid Paul $840,000. That's almost $1 million in just 1 year to her graffiti artist brother, his newly established security firm. Now, that makes her a great sister, but perhaps she's an even better baby mama because Patrisse also gave funding from Black Lives Matter to take care of the man who fathered her son. His name is Damon Turner, and he received $970,000 from BLM to his company Trap Heels LLC, which purportedly provided live production and media. So that makes Patrisse a great sister, a wonderful baby mama, and also, by the way, she's a fun mom. Because one of the events that Patrisse organized at her BLM mansion was for her young son's birthday party. Nothing says taking on police brutality quite like hosting a birthday party for your young son in a Los Angeles mansion paid for by donors to the cause. Patrisse likes parties, by the way, because she also threw a party there to celebrate the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And yeah, that's somewhat suspicious because what do Democrats have to do with Black Lives Matter?
Exactly.
I think I'll just leave that question open-ended. Also suspicious is the fact that Black Lives Matter designated a whopping $8 million to an out-of-country grant. What? I thought this charity was about addressing police brutality in the United States. Apparently, to do that, you need to send $8 million to Toronto, Canada, to an organization named M4BJ. They purchased a $6.3 million, 10,000 square foot downtown property in Toronto. And I should also mention that M4BJ is run by Patrisse's wife, Janiyah Khan, because it is. She is the co-founder, believe it or not. And here's where it gets really interesting. Janiyah Khan is gender non-conforming. These terms can be quite sensitive, so let me just use photos to illustrate my point. Janiyah used to look like this, and now she looks like this. Now that information would be entirely irrelevant if it wasn't for the way that Patrisse Cullors saw it fit to spend the rest of Black Lives Matter's money. Ready for some BLM pride?
No.
Well, according to their IRS form, $200,000 went to the Transgender Justice Funding Project. Another $200,000 went to the Transgender United Fund. Another $200,000 went to the Transgendered Law Center. Another $200,000 went to Black Transgendered Media. Another $200,000 went to the Transgendered Variant and Intersex Justice Project. Another $200K went to the Transgendered District. By the way, if you're wondering what that is purportedly going to be the all transgender district, and I guess that's really, really important for Black America advancement in society, I guess, or whatever. Another $200K went to the St. James Infirmary. That organization, by the way, is for, according to their website, it's run by sex workers and is for them. Specifically, escorts, BDSM workers, strippers, peep show workers, phone sex operators, and webcam performers. It was actually the St. James Infirmary that created the Transgendered District. So that's just an organization within another organization, which, by the way, you see a lot of when you go through these documents. So yeah, going to be apparently great big things involving sex workers in the future for Black America. In continuation, the Center for Halstead received $200,000 from Black Lives Matter. They are Chicago's community center dedicated to securing the health and well-being of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, and queer people of Chicago. Similarly, we have the Audre Lorde Project, which received $200,000, and according to their website, they are a lesbian, gay, bisexual, two-spirit, trans, and gender non-conforming people of color community organizing center. Another $400,000 went to transgender advocates knowledgeable, empowering.
I just had to pause for a second. This don't have nothing to do with any black community. Nothing.
No, it got something to do with self.
Got something to do with self.
Just,
and
at the end of the day, it's not about the black community, period.
It never was, and I knew that. But it's just hearing it laid out. I'm not surprised.
Everything that she's saying,
it's just how she's laying it out. It's just like, y'all really thought this was okay.
Yeah. They thought it was okay. See, if I give to other communities, then I feel okay by doing stuff for myself. You know what I'm saying? $1 million house, $6 million house. That's crazy. And then you go to the black community, you see nothing.
Right.
Boarded up places. And they
Right.
got some place they call the holy ground.
Holy ground, like we in Jerusalem.
That's crazy, man.
Or TAKE, as it's known for short. The founder of that organization is a transgendered individual by the name of Darrenisha Duncan Boyd. Darrenisha is also the executive director of the Transgendered United Fund, which I mentioned earlier, which secured $200,000. So a total $600,000 of BLM money went to a transgendered woman named Darrenisha Boyd, who is operating 2 charities. I found that piece to be very interesting. Here is Darrenisha describing in a 2020 interview how they were able to use that money that was received to the organization to purchase more real estate.
We're opening up a new resource center here, and the resource center is almost 3 times as big as our last space that we was in. So we have lots of space and lots of rooms for our clients to come in and enjoy.
I noticed that real estate seems to be a common theme amongst these transgendered organizations. Remember, there's the first ever transgender district, and there are also a couple of houses that are named on their IRS documents. For example, an additional $200,000 was given to the House of Tulip. According to their website, the House of Tulip provides zero-barrier housing to trans and gender non-conforming people. But the one that really stood out as the most nonsensical is the $200,000 that went to the Griffin Gracie Retreat and Educational Center, known as House of Gigi for short. According to that website, they provide services and resources that positively impact the lives, history, and visibility of transgender, gender questioning, and gender non-conforming persons. They admit that they purchased a property in Little Rock, Arkansas back in 2019, and that property was supposed to serve as an oasis and a retreat for transgendered persons. But they admit, also on the website, that they actually never held such a retreat. First, because their founder had a stroke and was recovering, and then it was COVID-19, so they still couldn't host a retreat. And despite having never hosted a retreat at this amazing oasis property that they purchased, in 2021, they announced that they purchased a second property next door to the first one. So, yeah. Now, all of the organizations that I just mentioned, none of them, not one, is up to date on filing a tax return with the IRS, which is required for charities, because charities, remember, they don't pay taxes. In other words, I'm not able to tell you how any of these transgendered organizations spent the money that BLM poured into their organizations during the 2020 and 2021 tax year. If you continue to look through BLM IRS docs, you'll notice that they gave millions of dollars to various Black Lives Matter organizations throughout America, or at least at first glance, it appears that they did. A closer look, you'll see that they actually dispersed that funding to organizations that were in care of Black Lives Matter. This means that actually another organization is accepting the donation on behalf of BLM. So I decided to investigate that further, and I noticed a really bizarre pattern. A lot of those organizations train activists. They train the youth to become activists in their communities. One organization even goes as far as bragging on their website about their history of getting arrested, protesting, and they offer courses on various techniques like bird dogging. That's a technique that's used to confront politicians. I thought to myself, it's interesting because I kept hearing over and over again while filming this documentary that people felt as though the protesters that arrived throughout these cities weren't actually from the cities that they arrived in. They didn't know where they had come from. I don't know, buses, there was this idea that buses were showing up filled with protesters. It's a fair question then. Is it plausible that Patrice was giving money to groups that were creating protesters or training activists rather? I mean, why else would Patrice give millions of dollars to so many trained activists? I wanted to investigate that piece a little further, and so I made some phone calls. So I want to call some of these groups today, pretend that I want to give money to the organization, and see what I can find out about what they do. I get the feeling that none of these multi-million-dollar organizations are gonna pick up the phone.
We are not able to take your call. The Google subscriber you have called is not available.
No response.
You have the wrong number. Thanks, and goodbye.
What?
Please leave a message after the tone.
No one's available.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Verizon wireless.
The Google subscriber you have called is not available.
The number you have reached is not. But it's still not right. They got all this money though. How they can pay the phone bill? Like, you don't have to be. Okay.
Oh, hello, this is me. I am the co-coordinator of development and communications. Is the boots on the ground place, the place where the seeds are sown for the movement to continue to grow.
How are you guys involved actively, not just in, we want to know how you are actually active?
Yes, we are trainers, we are healers, we are artists, we are creators, but most importantly, we are on the front lines. We are fighting for freedom assembly through education.
Yep, this is great. Obviously, we were, like I said, we gave millions and millions of dollars after the horrific killing of George Floyd. If we give your organization $1 million and something like that happens, right? How are you getting involved?
In the past, has provided movement support and accompaniment on the front line at protests. We have supported bail funds. We have supported pop-up workshops. We are not only keeping people prepared by preparing their minds for the movement, but we're also putting them in community with spiritual workers and with other educators on the ground during those protest efforts, along with the made a significant gift for this specific purpose of bailing out protesters during the 2020 uprising.
That's so wonderful.
One of our economics and governance organizers who works for was actually arrested in Kentucky as part of a protest, and we have been standing with her throughout that work and been showing up for court dates and packing the court and offering her legal support. So
that's what we want to see. That's what we're looking for. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time. I hope you have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much. Training activists, making sure that people's minds are poisoned and that they know that they're supported through bailing out. We will bail you out. We've got the money to bail you out. And that's kind of what this is all about.
What about the black community?
Now, the organization that received the biggest grant from Black Lives Matter, according to their filing, is an organization called Living Through Giving Foundation. The Living Through Giving Foundation, per their mission statement, strives to connect people through organized acts of love. They run a program called #LunchBag. This program allegedly brings people together to create bagged lunches in which they write handwritten love notes, and then they distribute the bagged lunches to local communities. That sounds nice, right? I thought so too. I thought to myself, I want to attend one of these events, but when I went to their website, there were no upcoming events. And when I went to the website to explore past events and learn more about the original givers, I was met with a coming soon page. So I wondered, who is the executive director of this organization that accepted $2.3 million from Black Lives Matter Global Foundation? Of course, when I went to the IRS website, they also had neglected to file an up-to-date return, but there was a name at least, and that name was A.J. Reeland, listed as the executive director. A.J. owns 3 coffee shops in California. You'd have to imagine my surprise, though, when I found an article about his coffee shop opening in 2019, and buried within the piece was a picture of none other than Patrisse Cullors, sitting there with her friends having coffee. In 2019, meaning Patrisse Cullors had a relationship with A.J. Reeland that predates the George Floyd protests. So exactly why did she transfer BLM money to her old friend A.J. via his charity that is nothing more than really a splash page with no upcoming events? Is she a part owner of those coffee shops? Is she an investor? I will leave that as the $2.3 million question. What I can say for certain is that you don't just send your non-black friend $2.3 million just because. Perhaps most hilariously, you'll recall that the founders of Black Lives Matter pride themselves on being abolitionists. They want to abolish the old systems of white supremacy, the systems which keep Black America away from garnering our true generational wealth and financial freedom in this horrible country, which makes it somewhat odd that they invested $32 million into the stock market. Wall Street, what a great way to abolish the system of white supremacy. Invest in stocks. I think that the IRS docs in the end lead to more questions than they do answers. And if you were an individual who gave to this organization, a well-meaning individual who gave because you thought it was going to help Black America, then you should get answers to those questions. So we are headed to Laurel Canyon. We've yet to see any Black people in this neighborhood. There were a ton of cyclists coming through. Not that that's an issue, but it just seems a bit strange because the Black Lives Matter messaging, of course, has been that Black people cannot be safe in white spaces. So it's an unusual decision to buy a home in a neighborhood that doesn't have any Black faces and is surrounded by what we've been told are violent white people that don't want to see Black Americans become better. So hopefully, as we are heading now to the house, we'll be able to speak to somebody on the property. Is this a creative space for Black Americans? Why did we purchase this property with the money that was raised on the faces of so many dead Black people? I'm assuming it's going to be a welcoming environment. We'll see. So there's definitely somebody home. Hello. I was just looking to speak to whoever is at this property. Sir? Hello? I don't know if he's going to get someone. I see a very cute German Shepherd, it looks like.
This morning, I woke up to Candace Owens being outside of my house with a news crew.
Looks to be maybe in his mid-40s, white male, black hat, and he is, whoever he spoke to on the phone has instructed him to record us, which is strange because we just want to talk. And what I see in the driveway are 2 cars and a sign that says you are exactly where you are supposed to be.
She was demanding that I come outside.
Hi. Hello. Hi, you're welcome to record. I just want to talk. Are you instructed not to speak to anybody? We're not trying to harass you. We'll gladly leave. We're just wondering if we can speak to anybody. Sorry, what was that? Okay, I just thought this was a house for Black Lives Matter.
It's unacceptable and it's dangerous that anybody, any stranger, come outside of my house.
You're just trying to figure out if this house is actually being used for Black people in a creative space at all, and it doesn't seem that way.
What happened this morning is not safety. It's not what I deserve. It's not what any of us deserve.
I can't see how this purchase helped Black lives anywhere in America. I can't even find a Black life on the property. The dog's not even Black, so there's that.
And so they're literally trying to destroy us. They're trying to destroy me. They're trying to destroy the movement. And I just need us to be stronger.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. What could be more emblematic of Black Lives Matter than that? Playing the victim to the public, hoping that you can get sympathy, and perhaps that sympathy will transform into dollars. And of course, after we exposed that lie, she subsequently wipes her Instagram and says that she needs a mental break and needs to reevaluate stuff. And what I'm hoping is that by the end of this, they'll wipe the entire organization in charity, you know, because it is not what it seems. The real story is a story of addiction. That's it. That's actually a story that could have brought people together globally. This was a man that was high on drugs and went into a store with counterfeit bills. He sat in a car with his dealer. Obviously, they had drugs on them. Drugs were found on them. And I believe that in his final moments, when the police arrived, he ingested a lethal amount of drugs. And unfortunately, the paramedics and the medical attention that this person would have needed in the immediate never happened, never transpired. And it is a story of a man who overdosed in the end. The media is your enemy. That is what I will say. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart after examining every corner of this case. The media scared the jury. The media scared even politicians into agreeing in lockstep. There's no other way to examine the media but to recognize that they were the enemy. And they're not going to stop being the enemy. People were deluded and people were lied to, and people should be angry. People should be rightfully angry that they acted the part of a marketing agency for what, in my opinion, is a complete fraud, a fraudulent organization that uses Black emotion and Black pain to extort dollars from white America. That's what happened. You were all lied to. That's the truth.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow.
Well, guys, if you speechless, so are we.
I mean, I just, you know,
that was
BLM, I just see broken chains, you know what I'm saying, that could have connected with the community, but the chains are broken because they squandered the money instead of, you know, building the community up, the education system, creating more jobs for small businesses. That money can be used for community, to help pretty much
build a community.
Yes,
not tear community down.
And to communicate with the police department.
Right.
You know, get somebody in there to communicate with them. You know what I'm saying? Because they need training. Then you got counselors for the families.
Yeah.
The families that's hurting. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's actually the ones that's still playing victims. They need counselors. Seriously, they do. Because they're still holding on to things that they don't have to hold on to.
No.
But I just feel like that was a chain that could have actually been scratched out, a linkage to people to help people out. But it's broken.
It's broke now.
It's broken because you got a group of people that took advantage of the system.
And took advantage of other people.
Yeah.
For their own benefit.
You go back to that site where Mr. George Floyd died at, it's supposed to be a holy ground, which is nothing holy about it. It's nothing holy. The only person holy is God. So, so ain't nothing holy about that. But the thing is that you look at it's boarded up windows of small businesses that's been
nothing in that area is
just
prospering.
Ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous how they took all this money and just
boarded up buildings
to spending in places that don't make sense at all. Took advantage of the system, kind of like the PPP.
Oh yeah, when everybody had a business, and they got a PPP loan, and they didn't have a business.
This I don't care.
And they messed up people.
I don't care what color you are. People gonna be people. You got people that take advantage of things. You got people that do the right thing by things.
Yes,
they come in all colors.
Yeah.
Black, white, Spanish, whatever. It don't matter, right?
Yeah,
it is what it is. And I just feel that they had a chance to really build up the community.
Yeah.
They
that was a lot of money that could have went to.
Man, do right by it, man. Go back to the community.
Yeah.
Build, man. Educate. That's the biggest thing.
Right
Education.
Because they want to educate people to be protesters, but that's not what the world needs. We don't need protesters. We don't need protesters. That's like you trying to do something that was tried. You're not trying anything different. But to create protesters and then have people fighting one another.
Wow. I think we need builders.
Yeah, we need builders.
Go back to the community. That's what they should have did. Created a system so that people can go back to the community and help build. Let people know that, hey man, you ain't got to stand.
But it should have been about really coming together too, like you said. I mean, but it wasn't done that way. Whew. God, man, this was deep. I know I never gave anything to the Black Lives Matter because when I heard the first name, and I know you mentioned me on one of our other videos when I said like I already knew it was a scam anyway. Like, why you gonna put Black Lives Matter? Like, really? I mean, y'all want to me? You want to use that? Somebody's race.
I was hoping that they was going to take advantage of this.
I already knew that
and build a community back up. But it was nothing built up. I just seen people building themselves up. Yeah. And it's sad.
But like the pastor said,
like the last part, she using them crocodiles tail.
Yeah.
Inside, I hope that she has some kind of feeling that I did wrong.
Yeah,
I should did right.
Just admit that, but no, it's not gonna be admitted that she did the wrong thing wrong. But I like
she take the rest of the money, sell the house,
and move well.
I don't care, but take it and go and
she ain't leaving the house. She ain't leaving the house. She ain't no. She ain't gonna do that. But I like what the pastor said. He said a better person to follow. There is a better person to follow. And while he did lose his life, okay, but you want to encourage people to follow that. There has to be somebody different. There has to be somebody else.
Martin Luther King was staying in hotels. He wasn't taking the money. His family, man, if you look at the movie, it was throwing rocks through his window, man.
You have so many other people that you can't follow.
It was going through. You look at Malcolm X, man. His family, they lost their house.
I think families back then who tried to do the right thing for black people.
Them people never took advantage of the system and just squandered the money.
That was their own piggy bank. It was their personal piggy bank. It was their personal piggy bank. It was the personal piggy bank. That's what it was. Personal piggy bank.
Yeah, so
on the backs of people who thought they were doing something to benefit a community.
I think they had the right intentions, but they just after the money started flowing in, they like,
oh, we got that much money,
man.
But no, they
giving money in certain places. That way, if something happened, I know these people gonna bite me.
No, they came in it with the wrong mindset. Sorry,
I'm serious, man. I truly believe they did it that way.
All right, you got anything else to add? I mean, Candace
Anything
did a
else?
great job
She
with
did
the
a really good
documentary.
job.
She did a great job. That she broke that thing down.
I don't
She
think I
broke
gotta
it
say
down.
BLM. We gotta do better, man. You got Black Lives Matter. You put a man. Come on, man.
Y'all wrong for that.
No, Black Lives Matter.
Not in.
Start with the community.
Oh, the transgender.
We killing each other.
No, they started with the transgender community.
Huh?
They started in a transgender community, but it didn't have anything to do with black.
Nothing to do with it, man.
People, or building up a community, but a community of their choosing. A community of their choosing.
Oh man.
All right, guys. If you have not already checked out the Greatest Liar Ever Sold by Candace Owens on the Daily Wire, man.
I thought you said grapes you sold. I said, what grapes you sold?
What grape? What are you talking about?
That's what I heard. I'm sorry.
The greatest lie ever sold. I said, what's my grape?
I thought you said grapes you sold.
I don't sell grapes. I do not sell grapes. I eat grapes, but I don't sell grapes. All right, YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe and continue to check us out. All right. Peace.